We do have a news conference underway right now after the shooting of two Chicago police officers in the South Shore neighborhood. You can see Superintendent Snelling and also Mayor Brandon Johnson are there on the scene. Let's listen in.
During this police-involved shooting, at approximately 5 o'clock today, in the 2000 block of East 79th Street, our officers attempted to make a stop on a vehicle. And I shouldn't say attempt, they actually stopped the vehicle. This vehicle appeared to be some type of homemade vehicle. It's the best way I can describe it. During this stop, the individual that the officers were investigating fled the scene. The officers gave a brief chase, caught up to this individual, and a struggle ensued. During this struggle, the individual reached into a shoulder bag, removed a handgun, and fired a round, striking one of our officers. That same officer returned fire, striking the individual. While these shots were fired, the second officer was shot in the arm. That officer has gone into surgery, and the surgery was successful, so I'm happy to say that that officer is doing well. The first officer who was shot, who returned fire, the vest actually stopped the bullet. So thank God for his vest that saved his life under these circumstances. That officer is still in the hospital being treated. As you know, it may stop the bullet, but it doesn't stop the impact, and the officer is still seriously hurt, but will be fine. There was a handgun recovered at the scene. Other officers who arrived on the scene rendered aid, not only to our officers, but to the subject, who was then transported over to the hospital in critical condition. At this time, I just want to say once again that our officers are working really hard out here to keep down violence. And they face this type of violence every single day, and their lives are always on the line, and you never know when a simple stop could turn deadly. And we should understand the sacrifices that these officers are making at this time. It's really important to know and understand that they're putting themselves in harm's way to make sure that everyone else is safe. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Brandon Johnson, and then we'll take questions afterwards. Mayor?
Thank you, Superintendent, and good evening, everyone. Tonight, we are grateful for the work and the hard dedication of our Chicago Police Department. These two officers exhibited a great deal of bravery, courage, and strength. I had the chance to meet with both of the families as well as one of the officers, and they are in good spirits, but as you can imagine, they're pretty devastated and upset. These two officers are sons, brothers, and public servants. They're Chicagoans. And I am eternally grateful again for the commitment of our entire police department, the leadership of the police department. Today, though, I'm going to reiterate the point that I've been making for some time, that as Chicagoans, we have to look out for one another. As we go into this holiday season, it's especially important that we check in on one another, we put our arms around one another, and we look out for one another. As we work to create safe and affordable communities, that work requires the dedication of not just law enforcement, but from every single Chicagoan. And so as these officers courageously put their lives on the line for the people of Chicago, I'm asking Chicago to do its part, to put our arms around one another, support the women and men who serve in the front lines every single day, and then ensure that our communities are protected and safe. I'll do my part, but it's going to take all of us. With that, we'll pass it back to the superintendent. We'll take questions at this time.
If we could stay in order, if we go left to right, please.
Just to be clear, do we know if the second officer was shot by the suspect, or by the other officer returning fire?
That's a good question. Right now, that's under investigation because we don't have all of the facts on that right now, and that further investigation will reveal that information.
Next question.
Offenders still in critical condition, or has their status changed?
The last we've heard that the offender was in critical condition, so we haven't heard an update, and I don't have one at this time.
Sure. Superintendent, it sounds like such a simple situation, relatively innocent situation perhaps, a homemade vehicle I think you described it as, and then out of nowhere this level of escalation happens. What are your thoughts on that, and what does that mean as we head into this holiday weekend?
Well, that's a good question, Robbie. What I'll tell you is no situation for an officer is a simple situation. Any situation can escalate in a matter of seconds. We have lost officers in the line of duty with situations where officers approached and things changed instantly, making the situation more dangerous. What I will tell you about this weekend, it's not just a weekend, it's not just the 4th of July weekend, it's not just holiday weekends where we know that we see the uptick in violence. This is something that our officers deal with every single day. It could be any day of the week, any time of day where things could go bad. So we want to make sure that our officers are the best trained that we could possibly get them. Make sure that they have the equipment that they need. But more than that, we want to make sure that people have an understanding of what these officers deal with on a daily basis. And that's why your question was so important, because the education around what officers are doing and the sacrifices that they make to keep everyone safe is extremely important, and we need to shine a light on that, and thank you for that question.
Sir, if we could, maybe the mayor might want to answer as well. Any more details on these, on the officers that were involved? Are they fathers, ages, that kind of thing? How long they've been on the force?
Well, I can tell you right now, they've both been on the force for 4 years. One is 30 years old, the other one is 27. They have families, and we just talked to their families. They're very hardworking officers, and regardless of scrutiny or whatever they may face, they continue to go back out and do that work every single day. Mayor, I don't know if you want to
say something?
Yeah, you know, with I had the chance to speak with one of the officers. One who was just coming out of surgery, and as the superintendent indicated, the results are pretty positive, all things considering. And spoke with his mother, Cervantes, his uncle, and his sister. They're Chicagoans. They work in Chicago. They're, back of the yards, South Side neighborhoods. Officer Williams, his family is deeply tied to Chicago. They're public employees, right? And I think it's important that the people of Chicago know that these officers, they don't just belong to the city; they belong to people, right? And what I am relieved and encouraged by is that there's an individual was apprehended, and 2 officers made sure that potential danger did not meet community, and that's the point of it all, right? Is to work to intercept, prevent harm from happening. So again, all things considering, the families were overwhelmed by the gravity of this shooting, relieved, but as you can imagine, it's hard for them. So I'm asking Chicago to pray for the Williams and the Cervantes family and all of our officers. Superintendent, I don't know if this is the right time to do it, but Superintendent visited Officer Crespo just a little earlier, and he's recovering, and we're grateful for that as well. So.
¿Hablan español? ¿Alguien que pueda hablar español en cuanto a oficiales?
We come back. Do you mind if we came back? All right, thanks, Ben. Last question here.
Sure. Mayor, people will often look at the summer holidays, particularly 4th of July, as a temperature reading when it comes to violence and gun violence. This holiday did not start off real well. I'm sure you didn't want anything like this. What do you tell people who read into this? What's going to happen for the rest of the 4th of July?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's every single day, I show up working with the full force of government to keep our community safe. Our work doesn't get hyper concentrated because it's a holiday season. What I will say is, we saw during Memorial Day, there was not a single homicide that weekend. And there were other weekends where, guns that flow into our city had their way. I will reiterate to the people of Chicago that you see the full line of leadership here. Superintendent Snelling, our first deputy, Ursetti, the entire team is committed to making sure that our communities remain safe. The strategic deployment of our police officers is one that the superintendent takes a great deal of consideration around. And we have activations that are going on this weekend. I'll be leaving shortly to different parts of the city where there's midnight activities going on to keep people safe. There are parades. People should get out and enjoy Chicago. And I think the final point is we have to look out for one another. We cannot place the entire responsibility and burden on law enforcement. They're going to do their part. But as a city, we have to, again, continue to support one another, and we're going to hold the people who create harm and havoc in our community accountable. But at the end of the day, it's really going to require all of us to ensure that our communities are safe and affordable.
Final question here.
Yeah, just really quick, Superintendent. Kind of in line with the earlier question. Obviously, no situation is simple, but do we know yet what kind of escalated this situation from a chase to the altercation to, do we have any details on?
Well, no, there's no details on that because officers have to be interviewed. And right now, obviously, they can't be interviewed. And now all of that comes out in a full investigation. So we want to make sure that there is a full investigation so we give you the most accurate facts that we can give you in this case.
And just to be clear, the initial stop was made because the vehicle was this kind of homemade sketchy situation.
That I'm sure that's part of it, but until we have full statements from officers, we won't know the full of it. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that.
Thank you.
Hold on. I believe we had a question here. Angel, you want to step up for a second? Yeah.
Buenas tardes. Buenas noches, que diga.
Es un fin de semana que apenas va a comenzar. Su sentir al escuchar que esto ha comenzado de esta forma para ustedes.
Sí, para nosotros aquí en el departamento de policía sí los hace muy triste. Nosotros salimos intentando de asegurar que todo el mundo esté sano y cuando oímos noticias así, sí, se los hace difícil. Pero lo que le puedo decir es esto, que nuestros oficiales van a continuar a proteger a nuestra ciudad. Todos aquí, la ciudad y los departamentos de la ciudad van a hacer todo lo posible para que todos estén seguros. Estamos tristes, pero vamos a continuar a trabajar.
So finally, I just want to say one thing, especially with this holiday weekend and any other weekend. It's extremely important to just point out the fact that oftentimes when we see these weekends and they become violent, it's because we have groups of people who come together and they can't resolve conflict without the use of violence. The violence has to stop. We have to be better as people. We have to stop trying to resolve our issues and our conflicts with violence and deadly violence. Lives are being lost. Secondly, we should not allow our skin, our gender, our language, or our uniforms to be a barrier for communication. We're all people, and I think everybody, at least everybody should, want some sense of peace for their people, their children, for their family members to be safe in this city. So we really have to think about that. How do we get there? We have to first start with communication and understanding who's out here trying to keep people safe. And I can tell you right now, we have 2 officers sitting in this hospital right now recovering, thank God, because they were out here trying to keep this city safe. They will continue to do that work because it's burned in their blood. It's what they do. So I'm proud of what these officers do every single day. And I just want to say thank you to them, the work that they do, and the people who support the work that they do. We're out here for everybody. So I just want to say thank you to our department, our officers, and to our city. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you all. And we'll provide updates from news affairs.
You have been listening to a news conference with Police Superintendent Larry Snelling and also Mayor Brandon Johnson. You heard the police superintendent there, perhaps in his strongest words since announcing his retirement earlier this week. That announcement coming that on July 17th, the superintendent will be leaving his position, but he took the opportunity to make it clear in his words, the violence has to stop. We have to be better as a people and stop trying to resolve our issues with violence. We shouldn't allow our skin, gender, or uniforms to be a barrier to communications. So if you're just joining us, we did have 2 Chicago police officers shot late this afternoon on the south side in the South Shore neighborhood. And as we just learned in this news conference, which was a lot more than we knew just a couple of hours ago, 2 officers tried to stop a vehicle that was described as a homemade vehicle. But during that stop, the individual fled the scene. There was a chase, and then the officers were able to catch up with that suspect. A struggle ensued, but the individual reached into a shoulder bag and pulled out a gun, fired at the first officer. That officer was able to return fire, striking the individual. Then a second officer was shot as well. And how that happened is unclear at this point, but that second officer was taken into surgery and is said to be doing well. The first officer, the Kevlar vest that they wear, stopped the bullet, and in the superintendent's words, that vest saved his life. Stopped the bullet, but not the impact, as we know. He has been hurt, but will be fine as we understand it. A gun was recovered at the scene. The officers who responded to the scene then rendered aid to both the officers and also the suspect in this case, and that suspect said now to be in the hospital in critical condition.